have an update for you on a story we covered on the programme last week. Clashes between Kurdish and Arab groups in eastern Syria. Dozens have now been killed in the fighting, which is spreading beyond the initial centres of fighting in the province of Deir. Indeed, the unrest threatens to upset the fragile balance in the region where the Islamic State group did once hold significant power. Our terrorism expert, Wassim Nasr, was with me last week to tell us what was happening then. He's back again now with some developments. Wassim, just tell us what's happened since last week, and particularly the fact that the fighting is spreading.
Well, actually, yes, the fighting is spreading, and which is interesting also to see. It's that fighting is among Arab fighters from both sides, actually, because the Syrian Democratic Forces are pushing Arab fighters to fight the Arabs who are conducting this uprising, who started, as we see on the map, in Deir Ezzor. But during this weekend, 4 new fronts were opened by Sunni clans in Tel Tamer, Ain Isa, and in Manbij. And so we have footage where we can see those attacks conducted, which are still going on as we speak, where they advanced, for example, in Tel Tamer in the past few hours. And what's interesting here, we see them crossing the Sajur in Manbij, eastern of Aleppo. And what's interesting in this is they are attacking the YPG positions, meaning the Kurdish positions, but also the Syrian army positions. The Syrian army, which was called by the YPG since 2018 to hold those fronts in front of the Turkish administrated areas. Because the areas that are today here, those fronts are fronts with Turkish administrated areas. And what's interesting also is that we could expect the Americans to back the Syrian Democratic Forces, but actually it's the Russian Air Force which is backing the Syrian Democratic Forces in the area of Aleppo, and also the Syrian army. Another thing which happened from Idlib, and we have also a footage, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the dominant group in Idlib, is letting the clans leave the region towards other areas of Turkish control to conduct their fights, but we see them also opening fronts here west of Aleppo. This is the front of Kfartal, meaning conducting hit-and-run operations against the positions of the Syrian army.
And why are we talking about this? Why should we be concerned about this now? Because there are international actors that are involved in this. You mentioned the United States, you mentioned the Russians as well. There's also the Turks. So what wider implications might all of this have for them?
Well, actually, what's happening today is that this clanic Arab uprising took everybody by surprise. And those clans are mobilizing all through Syria. It could reach other countries, which is Turkey. It could reach Iraq too. And the important thing for the Americans is we are talking about the Arab component of the Syrian Democratic Forces. We are talking about the Arab clans who fought the Islamic State since 2014, even before the coalition, who were kicked out from the east by the Islamic State, and then entered the ranks of the Syrian Democratic Forces in 2017 and spearheaded the effort of the coalition against the Islamic State. So if the Arab component is lost by the coalition, the Kurdish component wouldn't be able to govern those areas alone. This is why we can hear also now a prominent leader of the Haqaidat clan that spoke out yesterday regarding this development. Meaning, it's not only about interest; it's becoming an honor and a clanic issue. So we can hear him maybe.
خالصين صفت شغلة كرامة ما ضل وراها. إن شاء الله. إن شاء الله. الموضوع لازم ننفذ جبهات، وإحنا مطلبنا مطلب عشائر عام. ما ضل وراها ورا. وهذا يومكم يا شباب. إن شاء الله. ماشي. الله أكبر. كفو يا كرامة يا موت بأسبابي.
So Al-Hafel wants the Americans and the coalition to enter and to negotiate a more balanced structure of power in eastern Syria. On one hand, the Kurdish dominant component of the FDS, they want to push him towards the Syrian regime, but he's an opponent of Assad. Why would they want to push him? To be the only people who can talk directly to the coalition and to the Americans. And in the meantime, the Islamic State that considers all those clans as enemies is saying, okay, good for them. They fought next to the Kurds against us. Now they are fighting each other. This is business as usual for those who doesn't fight under the banner of jihad. So it could create a security void in this area, which can have consequences all over Syria. And I got footage from Azaz, which is a Turkish-controlled area, of a convoy that you can see maybe, of Arab clans who were displaced, as we said, from eastern Syria years ago into Idlib, and who are moving towards Turkish-controlled areas in order to fight in Manbij. But this movement of the Sunni clans all over Syria is also a demonstration of power, which could change the equilibrium of power in so many areas, either in the opposition areas or the regime areas.
Wassim Nasr, thank you very much indeed for coming in to explain to us that important story we're watching in Syria. Thank you.